let's start with Monster Hunter. Here's
All
my
right.
experience with it, and then I'll let you take over.
Are you about to say none?
About 5 hours combined.
okay.
Combined.
Oh.
So I remember. Did you ever see X Play, the old show on Tech TV back in like the mid 2000s?
Oh, like G4
Yeah,
TV and
yeah,
stuff?
G4 TV.
Oh, man.
Before G4 TV, and it was just Tech TV. X Play was a Tech TV show. Then the networks merged.
God,
and
they should bring stuff like that back.
I
That'd be so
remember
cool.
on X Play, they talked about the first Monster Hunter on PS2. I remember watching that and thinking, never going to take off. This is stupid.
Wouldn't it be grand to go to a world where humans and dinosaurs could live in perfect harmony without bloodshed? Yes, it would. But that is not the type of symbiosis a player will experience in the huge world of Monster Hunter for the PS2.
So with that said, talk about the new one that came out that everyone loves, apparently.
Before I start, Zach, do you have any experience with Monster Hunter at all? The franchise, any of the games, anything?
No, I really wanted to get into the games with Monster Hunter World and Iceborne, and I just never actually picked it up. I think I even downloaded it when it went on. I feel like it went on Game Pass at one point. I downloaded it and I just never actually played it. But I was really wanting to. Like Monster Hunter World captivated like the casual audience, it seems, and I just happened to be one that didn't get a chance to try it. But yeah, the new one I don't really have an interest in at this point.
I think this is technically my second Monster Hunter game, but it might as well be my first. I played a little bit of, I think it was called Monster Hunter Generations, which is like on the 3DS. And that was back during the days when people actually went to GameStop, right? So like you get a used game, you play it for a little bit. If you like it, you keep it. If not, maybe you sell it back to GameStop for something else. And I maybe played a couple hours of it, and I just didn't like it that much. The 3DS also just doesn't have the greatest screen and stuff, so it's like... And this was pre, like, the new 3DS with, like, the little, like, nipple thing, which they bound to the camera, which makes the game so much more playable on the 3DS. So if you don't have that, then you basically have to hold the R button while you're like pressing the D-pad or whatever to actually move the camera. So it really like fixes like a major issue of the game. So I never played it, but a couple friends of mine are really into Monster Hunter. They played Monster Hunter Worlds a couple years back, and this new one's coming out, Monster Hunter Wilds, and I knew about this game for quite a while. Because the trailer dropped like early last year. Like they announced it very, very early. Like early last year, maybe it was even the fall of the previous year, so like 2023. And so it was on my wish list for a bit. They had some betas, and those were really cool because they actually included a lot of those like early bosses from the game basically in the beta. So you got to kind of experience the mechanics and stuff like that early. And so I played the beta. I'm like, yeah, this seems like a game I could probably play. And like, it had a co-op functionality, so you can play with friends and stuff. So I bought the game, and I knew that it was going to run bad from the beta. I was hoping that they would fix some of it. Spoilers, they did not. The game is... I can't believe it shipped in the state. Like, I know probably people who are dying to hear about Monster Hunter Worlds, or Wild, sorry, not Worlds. They're probably sick of hearing about it, but it needs to be said. The performance is so bad. Like, so bad. You need upscaling pretty much no matter what hardware you have. It's insane. Basically, in my system, I have an RTX 3060 12 gig. It's a little dated, but it should be... I'm only running 1080p here. I'm not running 1440p. I'm not running 4K. I'm not running any of that. I'm just running...
That should be fine.
Classic 1080p HD, you know, shit we've had since 2007, right?
Yeah.
And this thing cannot run it. Natively, it will be running it at like 20 FPS. So you gotta crank DLSS on, which basically means the game's running at half resolution and being upscaled. The good thing is that it supports DLSS 4, which is interesting because the game ships with DLSS 3. And if you're... I don't know how much you guys have looked at the differences between DLSS 3 and 4 for NVIDIA's upscaling solution, but there's actually DLSS 4 is actually very impressive. Like, legitimately impressive upscaling tech.
Yeah, it looks great.
And so, the game ships with DLSS 3, but what you can do is you can grab the DLL for NVIDIA DLSS and just put it into the game files, and not only will it work, but it'll show the DLSS 4 version in-game. Which makes me wonder, why didn't they just ship it with DLSS 4 to begin with? It'll probably happen in an update. Yeah, the performance is terrible. And, like, I have a friend who, like, bless his soul, he's a down-to-earth dude, but then he's like, I have no problems with the performance. I'm running DLSS and FrameGen, and I'm getting 90 FPS. It's like, of course you're getting 90 FPS running FrameGen. You're actually only getting 45 FPS.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. But, okay, I got my graphics ramble done, alright? Oh, but
wait! There's more!
There's one more thing, is that, like, you would expect that, like, if the game runs terribly, the graphics would be really, really beautiful. But then I sent you guys some screenshots to show you what I mean. There are legitimate, like, PS2 level textures in the game.
Is there an eternal struggle within your soul that bothers you, my friend? Where is your God now?
And what everybody is thinking is happening is that when you boot up into the game, you get a splash screen that says RE engine, like the Resident Evil engine. And so they took this engine, which is designed for single-player games, and they tried to do like a pseudo open world on it and add co-op and all this other stuff. So they ran into a lot of problems, I think, is what everybody's thinking. And so I have no idea why some of the textures look terrible, but what they did to try to mitigate this is any of like the textures on the main characters and stuff, those all look fine. Like even the faces and stuff, everything looks fine on your like the different outfits you can do, like the different armor pieces, your weapons, all that stuff. Everything looks fine there. But then like the desert, like the actual sand on the ground will look terrible, and then the NPCs, some of them will look bad. So it seems like they knew about this issue, and they basically tried to mitigate it as much as possible, and like at least make it so that the important stuff wasn't like looked fine. But then it's just sometimes it's just so like it takes you out of the scene if you're like watching a scene, and then they're like interacting with an object, and it literally looks like a PS2 texture. Like it's one of the ones I sent you almost looked like a PS1 texture. There was like this light blue blob that like it's like during the post-credit scene, and I have no idea what it's supposed to be. It's just like interacting with it. I'm like, what is this?
It's really unfortunate too, because the RE engine is like famously very optimized, and you can get like really good looking games with it pretty easily. They run pretty well. And so it's kind of disappointing. Like obviously there's some kind of situation where they had to update the engine, and it didn't happen fast enough for this game, basically. I could imagine a world where the next open world game that uses this engine would be a lot better. But my assumption is the actual engineers couldn't get the work done on the engine fast enough.
And I'm looking at pictures now. Some of the screenshots look really like washed out almost.
So, like, the actual environments in the game look quite beautiful when they're actually, like, standing and, like, it's kind of like Skyrim, where it's, like, you'll go into the forest and you're like, this looks really beautiful. And then you'll look closely at a tree and it's like, what the hell? Like, and you'll, like, you'll go into a cave and you're just staring at the cave wall and you're like, oh, God. It's one of those issues.
That reminds me of the PS3 Gran Turismo 5. At the time, it was, like, the most breathtaking driving game you ever played. Then you take a look at the trees and you could just see the 2D sprites of the grass like Smash Brothers N64, where if you drive and rotate the camera, you see the sprite just rotates with you.
Yeah, it's like the billboard effect, yeah. Okay, so there we go. I got my graphics and my textures rant done. The gameplay is great. It seems like basically the entire game is just trying to get you to go into the monster fights, fighting these big monsters. They all have great creative designs. The first one you fight is, I think, called the Chattacabra. It's, they're really goofy with the names and stuff and the designs.
That's a giant tongue.
Yeah. And then there's like one that's like a monkey that like farts. So if it farts on you, then you have to like splash in the river to like get the smell off of you and stuff. it like messes with your stamina or something and like makes you dizzy. So this and like later in the game you fight bigger and bigger monsters, and it's a little bit comical too because you'll be this like really tiny guy fighting something like that's like 10 times your size, and you're just thinking like, am I even like damaging this thing? Because one of the interesting aspects about this game is that there's no health bars. I believe that's standard across like all the Monster Hunter games, but you don't know how far you are in the fight. You just kind of gotta like guess. Yeah, like your little buddy will like tell you like, oh, he's looking weak, and then that's when you know you're probably like 75% of the way there. But other than that, you have like no reference whatsoever. It's got a lot of like scavenging for different like items and stuff. It's an RPG, right? So you got like different items you can use to like give you buffs and stuff. You can like if you're like fighting in the middle of a big monster, sometimes a second big monster can show up, and then it's like Godzilla style where they just start fighting each other, and so you just kind of sit back and just see what's happening there, and you just
I think that's happened in World as well sometimes.
I that might be a staple of the Monster Hunter franchise for sure.
You walk over a hill and you see things fighting, and you just stand and wait, like, okay, are you done fighting yet? Now I'm coming in.
Well, yeah, because if you just sit back, then like the other monster will like do a bunch of damage to it, and then it'll probably like, scurry away eventually, and so then you can basically just use it to your advantage, which is really nice. But yeah, like there's tons of like items and stuff. They're scavenging, so like you can grab different like mushrooms and stuff, and then you can use those to create potions and things like that. So a lot of RPG kind of elements, crafting elements like that. The best crafting element in the game though is cooking. They spend a lot of time making these like food scenes like look really cool. So like there'll be a lot of detail on him just like cooking a steak or something, and it's kind of great. And then there's a couple scenes in the game where they all like kind of sit by and like have dinner, and there'll be all these different like cool looking food items, and it's like clearly the developers of this game were like big foodies, which is really interesting. And so yeah, I really enjoyed those little tidbits there. There for some reason there's just a lot of emphasis put on food in this game when you're like cooking and like out by the like sitting around for dinner and stuff. There's like it literally like stops the game for like a good like 60 seconds, and it shows people passing around food and like eating it and stuff.
I've struggled with the game, like the gameplay, because I think I don't have enough patience, because I know you have to wait for like animations. You hit the button and you have to wait for for the guy to swing the giant heavy sword, right?
Yeah.
But the games always have like personality, like always.
Yeah. So that they have a weapon that would be specifically just for you called the dual blades, which I use. I'm a dual blades user, which is basically
in Worlds.
So that would be the solution to that. I am a dual blades user, which means I'm a scrub. So yeah. A friend of mine was using like the hammer, which is like it takes a bit to wind up, I think, when it hits. And he was saying that halfway through that like this is just not good to use in single player. For co-op, it's probably a lot better when you can like coordinate with your team and stuff. But for single player, it was kind of terrible. So I guess you can have issues like that. There's quite a lot of weapons in the game. There's like I think about either 8 or 10 to choose from. So whatever kind of playstyle you like, you're totally free to choose. Ranged weapons, gun lances, straight out of animes and stuff. Whatever you're feeling, go for it, right? In the game, you kind of have a little cat as a buddy. I don't know if that was always a thing in all the Monster Hunter games. But,
the Palicos, I think it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the funny thing about this game, though, which again, I'm not sure if this was in the other Monster Hunter games, is that you can build armor for your cats, so they can be like straight up like decked out. And they help you in fights where they'll either take like the attention of the like whatever dragon or whatever you're fighting away from you so that you can like heal or something, or if you're low on health they'll like throw you a potion basically so you don't have to like do a potion yourself. So they're just a nice little like buddy to have there.
Sometimes they give you allergies and you need to take Allegra.
Possibly.
In game, you got to start sneezing, and the dragon
Yeah.
comes. And
The story's kind of meh. I mean, all the Monster Hunter games have like kind of terrible story. I don't even know why they try too much. They're basically the way the game is structured. There's 3 chapters, which are like the main story, and after you finish chapter 3, the credits roll, and then it's sort of like the end game after that, and that's where like the real game begins. That's where the real grind begins. I did finish the 3 chapters. I didn't get farther than that though. So I guess I can't give a full review of the game just because I have not played like past those like kind of initial chapters. Basically, the main story is just there to teach you the mechanics of the game, like it's basically a tutorial. And one of the issues I have with the game though is that when you're in this session, you would assume that because it's a co-op game, right? You could just get together with your buddies and play the story. No. So let me explain. You can do quests and you can fight monsters with each other. And the party system kind of sucks. So basically, to party up, there's like basically 3 steps. First, you invite your friends to what's called a link party. This tells the game that, hey, I like you, and you like me, and we're friends. That's not enough. Then you have to invite each other to an environment link. This puts you in the same zone, like the same session, as your buddies. You're still not done. Then you have to invite them to the individual quest. And then they accept. And then, and only then, can you play.
Why are you the way that you are?
The interesting thing, though, is that when you do get into this, like, when you're in a link party, right? And if you're playing through the main story, once you get to the monsters, it automatically sends an invite to your friends. So I'm, like, fighting the monster as part of the main story, and my friend just shows up and he starts, I'm like, where'd you come from, dude? It's great. So, like, I actually do kind of like that kind of system. It's just, I don't understand why they couldn't have come up with it. There probably could have been a better solution.
I trying to remember the game. Maybe it was Redfall. I played through Redfall twice, but
Oh, man.
there's a game, and it may be Redfall, where the enemies are scaled to the person, to that individual player's level, even if they're multiplayer. So, like, if you're the high level player, then you're doing a percentage amount of damage to the enemy, whereas the lower level player does a much higher percentage damage to the same enemy. I feel like it's Redfall. I don't remember for sure, but I feel like that was a good solution as well.
I think Fallout 76 does that too.
I've never played it.
You should. It's actually really good now.
I'm actually playing Fallout 4 for the first time now, and I'm almost done with it. But yeah,
I like 76. I'm the oddball. I actually like that one.
No, I mean, I know a lot of people like Fallout 76 after they took a couple years like fixing it.
Yeah.
But just to finish off Monster Hunter Wilds here, when you finish the main quest, you're like you're Hunter rank 8, I think. And it goes up to like Hunter rank like 40 or something. So the idea, and I think what they do in like chapters like 4, 5, and 6, is that you fight the same enemies again, but then they're like harder and like they might drop more loot and stuff. And like the idea is that you kind of just keep going into the fights and get the enemy loot and stuff. And sometimes you have to do like I think special things in order to get certain loots off the enemies. Like there might be a certain part which only comes off of the enemy if you if you break the arm of the dragon, then you get the claw. So then if you're going for the claw for like a specific armor or weapon set, you gotta target those. Or it might be something to where like you have to lop off the tail of the enemy, and then you have to scavenge that for parts, and then you'll get like a certain part. So definitely a lot of replayability with that, especially when you're like grouping up with your friends and stuff, and once you get past the main story. So I think the issue is basically the story, because I think the way the co-op works perfectly if you're just playing a game where you're just like kind of going back and forth and doing these like quests that like refresh, but then you got to get through the story, and the story wants to handhold you through these it's annoying because like basically a story quest is literally just you on your little animal riding, and it's like you have it set to auto run, and you're just like waiting for your fucking like posse to like just like walk till you get to the fucking monster. And it's just like, why is this even in the game? Like just why?
Not many games can get away with wasting the player's time like that. Like Ghost of Tsushima did it well, but like most games aren't allowed to just make you walk around for 15 minutes.
Well, like it like forces you. You're almost in like a caravan, right? So like you can't even like get off and like walk around or whatever. The game will like stop you from doing that, and it'll be in
Wow.
a new zone that you've never been in before. So like you're going to the forest for the first time. It's like, oh, dude, I want to like, and you can kind of scavenge a little bit, like while you're on like your little like riding animal, like you have a little like grappling hook, and so you can like while you're like kind of on the little animal, you can like grapple and like grab like mushrooms and stuff like that. But you can't just like go walk around experience the world until you go back, which is like I just wish it was more like Skyrim or something where like they're just like go here, but then it's like if I want to walk around like the city for a while before I hit my objective, I can do that. Yeah, so really really strange decision on that. And the story's kind of anyway, so like I don't know.
It's kind of like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne. The stories, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
I've beaten like half of those games. I can't tell you the story in any of them. I don't know.
I thought there really is no story. You just like at least with Dark Souls, you just start out as a nobody in a prisoner, right? Or in a prison, right?
Basically, that's all I got.
I mean, that's all you need. That's like Morrowind's story, and like everybody loves Morrowind. It's like
Exactly.
you're just nobody, and you just show up and you somehow like change the world.
Yeah.
Or you steal everything. Whatever.
That too. So I mean, that's kind of all I really have to say about Monster Hunter, though. Yeah, that's kind of it. I didn't
Cool.
get far enough to go into detail about like the monster fights and stuff.